Okay, so I'm going to assume that we are live here. Um, I cannot tell if there are others on this webinar, but so I'm going to assume that there are. Welcome. This is part 2 of the Adobe Photoshop tutorial. My name is Nicholas Ayers, coming to you live here. Sorry. Coming to you live here from what is a overcast Northern California. It's a little chilly. I think it's going to rain. So good thing we're indoors and we're here. So we are going to get right to this. If you remember on Tuesday in the way of review, in the way of review from last week, what we talked, or from Tuesday, what we talked about was we started off with talking about the differences between Photoshop and some of the other different Adobe software platforms that there are. There's Adobe Photoshop, there's Adobe Illustrator. Those are the two main graphics programs within the Adobe platform. What Adobe Photoshop focuses on is photo editing. It focuses on doing what we broke down and we described as raster-based images, or images that are maintained and used with pixels. Pixels contain different bits of information. That information, when zoomed in, looks like a bunch of little squares. Looks like you're playing an old Atari or Nintendo video game. And zoomed out, it looks much more clear. And so I explained that for Photoshop, you never want to do anything that is centered around page layout, meaning your newsletters, your envelopes, or stationery. You can do those things, but it's best that you don't. The reason you don't want to do that is because you want it to print, at least from a perfectionist standpoint, in a purity standpoint, you want it to print much more cleaner, much more crisp. You want the graphics to look better on paper or anywhere else. Also, the resolution, it's when you use Adobe Illustrator, it's not based on resolution, so you don't have to worry about high res, low res, and you have to worry about those things in Photoshop. And also the file sizes, when you save it to your computer or try to email it, the file sizes are massive, and so it definitely has its place. Photoshop has its place. Raster-based images created in Photoshop have their place. Their place just is not in those other areas. Their place is what you see on the screen. My webcam's here. It's going to be what you see on the screen. It's going to be what you do for web. Photoshop is fantastic. What you do for social media, Photoshop is fantastic, because those things aren't dependent on resolution. You can make it whatever, and it will be fine. So we're going to jump right into that. That's the way I review. Today I want to touch a little bit more on some different photo editing tips that you commonly will run into, that you will have to do, things that you're doing. If you are, I'll bring it into a practical standpoint here, or practical application. Let's say you want to create a image, and this would have been a good example to run through. We probably still can, but let's say you want to alter the color of an automobile that you're wanting to use in some sort of marketing. Let's say you're wanting to remove some of the imperfections. Let's say you are wanting to use just the car and remove it from the background. These are things that you can do in Photoshop. You can bring over into another file and make it however you want to make it. So we're going to go over that. We're going to do a little bit more on photo editing. We're also going to do a custom background. A lot of people, practically speaking, you're probably accustomed to doing different presentations, whether it be in PowerPoint or maybe you have TV screens in your office and you want to do a background that's a still shot. Perhaps you want to create a background for anything that you want to create. I'm going to show you how to do that. Kind of the real easy way, kind of the cheater's way on how to do that and how to brand it for yourself. Maybe put a logo in there or incorporate that for any kind of design that you want to do. Another thing we're going to do is we're going to touch on layer styles. If you recall, on Tuesday we talked about Photoshop. It has different layers. Everything is a layer. So you have your background as a layer. On top of that, you're going to put text. On top of that, you're going to maybe put, in between that, you're going to put a car or a house or whatever. You're going to make an image. Everything kind of comes together like a puzzle and within layers. And so I'm going to show you some different layer styles that you can do, some different layer filters that you can do to kind of make your image a little nicer, a little bit more unique. and just kind of however you see the creativity going from there. So we're going to get right into this. I'm going to share my screen here as soon as I get off Facebook. All right. Screen share. I like this Google Hangout. It's pretty nifty, actually. Start screen share. Hopefully you can see that. If you can see that, what you're looking at now is a picture of a, we're going to call that a adolescent with some acne. And we're going to talk about how to touch up this photo. Tuesday we showed you a picture of the one and only Grant Botman. We kind of highlighted some of his features. You know, we made him look more like a glamour shot. Here I want to show you how to do some practical things. This is something that you'll run into, whether it be on a person's face or whether it be on an image, wanting to touch it up and remove some of the what you might call imperfections. So the first thing we're going to want to do is we're going to want to obviously, you know, remove this person's acne and give him or her, I'm going to assume that's a him, give him a cleaner looking face. So real simple, if you remember, here is your toolbar. This has many of the different tools that you're going to be using to work within an image. Okay, we are, if I can find it here, we have two layers, right? We have the background layer and we have this layer. We can move this layer around, and you know, obviously I want to put it right there so that it looks like it's one image. And we're gonna go ahead and touch this guy up. So on your toolbar, there's a pretty nifty way of doing this. And let me take a step back and let me reiterate one thing. I've gone through tutorials and I've seen different people do things in Photoshop and Illustrator and all these other programs, and I always think to myself, that's not how I do it. And the cool thing about this whole experience is that there's more than one way to accomplish what you're wanting to accomplish. I'm going to get rid of this guy's acne, but there's more than one way to skin a cat in this, and I'm just going to show you the way that works for me. If you are running into tutorials, and I highly encourage you, if you have any interest in learning this in further detail, I highly encourage you to go through a couple tutorials. They're going to show you different things that are much different than the way I do things. The reason is it's just there's so many infinite possibilities on things that you can do. So it's really cool like that. So back to it. So on the toolbar, there's this tool called Clone Stamp. And basically, if you think about it, Clone Stamp, what we're going to do is we're going to take a, I want to increase my brush size. You can see my brush is kind of small there. I don't know if you can see the little circle. I want a much larger space. So I'm going to come up here on my right up top of the bar here, and I'm going to, I can see where it says 9. That means 9 pixels. I want to make it a little bit larger to give me a larger brush. We'll go with that. So clone stamping means you're taking one part of the image and you're stamping it on another. You're cloning it, right? Just like the word says. So I'm going to go here. I'm going to zoom in on this guy. Where's my navigator? If I have it open. I'm going to zoom in on this, and I'm going to kind of go to where I see a spot that is clear that I want to duplicate, that has the same kind of coloring and is more manageable. So right here, if I hold down Alt, right, I can select this portion of skin. I can come up here. I can kind of cover it up, right? I can do it again. Just by holding down the Alt key and clicking, you can really start to clean this image up, right? Pretty simple. No matter where I click, it's going to copy from the previous spot. And you can go around. I'm not going to do the whole thing just because that would take too much time that I want to spend here. And you can really help this person out, right? You could do in 10 minutes what Benadryl or what a Clearasil and all those other things could do in probably 10 years. Right? Basically, you're just touching this up. And if I wanted to, again, kind of alter some of, if I wanted to give it maybe a little bit more of a clear look, same thing that we did on Grant's. Same thing that we did with Grant. We can kind of go in here. We could select a skin tone for the color, and I can kind of just go in here and then kind of smooth some of this out. That's kind of a lazy way of doing it. If I really want to get a little bit more detailed, make it still look like it has skin, you can do that. You can also, again, edit some of the different, shadows and colors. Give it a little bit more contrast or highlights. Or there's ways of doing this. But that's one way that you can really touch up a photo. That's just one example, doing it on a personal person. I want to show you another example. I'm going to get out of this one. And we've all seen, photos where someone gets photobombed, right? You're trying to take a nice family photo, and then you got some jackwagon, in here that wants to disrupt everything. I would never do anything like this, by the way. What a jerk. But you take a photo and you want to edit that out, right? And I want you guys, as we're doing this, to think of other ways that you can practically apply these tools to other things. Think about creating or duplicating other parts of your images, whether they be whatever forms of images you're going to use for your branding. These same tips and tricks work. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of this stupid hat, because it just ruins everything for me. I'm going to make myself a bigger one. And because I'm working with something like sand, no one's going to know, it's hard to tell. I could just do that and you'll never know, right? That's the epitome of photoshopping something out. And now if I want to get rid of this guy, I'm going to select a color that's relatively close to what I'm doing. And I'm going to, just by holding down the Alt key, you can get them out of there. I mean, I can go relatively fast here. Because it's water, you have no idea what you're looking at. Common person's not going to know. I just want to make sure the colors are matching. You can just zoom right through this, so to speak. And I can spend, the next few moments, in fact I will, just to show you how quickly and easily you can accomplish this. And it's not going to be perfect just because I'm rushing through this. If I was really wanting to spend time on this, I can make it look like the guy never existed. Keep going. Now, it looks like they're, I don't know if that's, I don't know what kind of body of water they're standing in front of, but it looks rather disgusting to me. So I might want to adjust some of the hue and saturation on this. So if I go to the image, right, and I go to adjustments, I can really adjust, some of these. I can make it more blue, right? I can make it more red. I can make it whatever I want to do. I can adjust the color of the photo to make it match what I want it to do. I can make the colors a little bit more vibrant. I don't know if it's really showing you that there. Right? You can really, bring out some of the color and make these guys, make them pop a little bit, and you have a much better image. This is not, I would tame this down a little bit, but that's another thing that you can do with clone stamping, with photoshopping images in and out and kind of editing them. If I go back to the original, right? Oh, that's not it. We have that one there, and we go from that to this. The colors are still off, but you get the idea. I apologize. That's what happens when you run a live show here. So another thing that is really cool with Photoshop and is really popular is layer editing. So here I have I typed out this text here, right? And I want to edit it because I want it to just look much cooler. This is just flat, one color, just on canvas here. Not really anything special to it. It's just text. So I can do this with any layer or text where I'm going to show you. It's most commonly used for text. But what you want to do, let's say I want to add some different effects to this layer, this text layer. You can see over here that it's a separate layer. I have my background, I have my text. I want to make this stand out a little bit nicer or a little differently, and just kind of give some touch to it, give it some love. If I go up top and I go to layer, right, because we want to change the layer, I go to layer style. Let's start by giving it a drop shadow, right? You can see here it just kind of previews it, gives you a little shadow. I can make it dark. I could even change the color. I mean, there's no such thing as a red shadow, so I don't know why anybody would ever do that, but you can change the color on your shadow. You can change where it stands just by dragging it here. I want to make it so the light's coming from this direction. I'm not a big fan of really harsh shadows. I like things to be a little bit more subtle, a little more clean. So I just simply am going to change the opacity here, make it just a little more subtle. This looks a little more cleaner to me. And let's see, what else do I want to do? If I want to do what's called bevel and emboss, it's a cool little feature here. You kind of see how it kind of makes it stick out a little bit by changing the shadows and the highlights on the edges. Let's go extreme here. Let's just mess around. Let's give it a real, a lot of depth there. And let's make the size of it just more right. See how it's relatively simple. It's like you've given it a kind of a gradient fill there. Makes it stand out just a little bit differently. You can do other things like stroke, which means it's giving it an outline. So if I want to give it, let's see what white looks like, just because I want to make it on the outside. I can make it as, I can make it larger. Let's go with 3. I can do other things. I can color the whole thing. So what happens is if you have an image, no one calls until you're in the middle of something. Nobody will call. I'm sure you guys are all familiar with that. So you can do this with any image. Let's say you had a box there, and I'll demonstrate here. But let's say you can give it other effects. You make it glow. You can give it an inner glow, an inner shadow, all kinds of little cool things that you can do. But I'm going to move this guy over here. Let's think of another thing that we can do. Let's just do a circle. I'm going to make a circle. I'm going to create it on its own layer. And I'm going to paint it. So I'll go over that again in slow-mo. What I did is I created a new layer down here on the layer bar. I drew a circle, and I painted it in with a color. Right? So now I have, if you go here, call it press extension 8. You have 3 different layers. You have the circle layer, the text layer, and the background still. Now let's say this object was something that I pulled in from the internet or something else that I wanted to change the color. I can go back to layer style. This is kind of a poor example just because I could change it if I wanted to. But if I went to layer style, I can change this to really anything that I want. Let's go bright green. I can give it the same shadow effect or another shadow effect, right? It's going to match whatever's on the box there. I want to alter it a little bit. It's going to create the same light source, so the light's always going to be coming from here. They do that because intuitively you don't want shadows going this way and shadows going that way, because in whatever image you're doing, if you're making a professional looking image, it's going to look weird. So they do that intuitively to make sure that all the shadows go in the same light source direction. I'm going to give it its own. I'm going to give it its own stroke. I'm going to give it its own beveling. I make it look a little bit more like a button. It's kind of. And so you can kind of really edit this and make it however you want. Okay, so sorry. The in and outs of running an agency during the day. People come in and call and all that good stuff. So that's essentially all we're doing. So we'll wrap this up here real quick by doing one last thing. But I wanted to show you how different layer styles work and how you can incorporate them. If I wanted to do another thing, I could. I'm going to create. Well, you don't have to do it. You can trim buttons into these things, which work really good for websites or PowerPoint presentations, whatever. You can make them different colors, make them look a little bit more professional, add different glosses and sheens to them, and do all kinds of things to make yourself, you know, some nifty little buttons. Another thing I want to do, if I go to Google here, I was looking for photobombing things that people are type out. Never do Google search with photobomb. You get all kinds of it's only chicks in bikinis, which is just awful, by the way. So a lot of times if you look at the IAOA videos, you'll notice that on the green screen there's a background, and that's all stuff that I customize usually in Photoshop or Illustrator. But you know, and I just brand them to be myself. So this works really good on you know, some different applications that you're going to use. I'm going to take this guy from the internet. I'm just going to copy it. I'm going to create a new file. It's going to automatically know what I've copied, and it's going to make the pixel size, width, and height the same as what I've copied. So I'm good there. If I paste it there, I have this background that I just pulled off the internet, right? You got to love the internet. Let's say I want to make a background here that's branded for I-80 Insurance. I'm going to come down. I'm going to bring in my logo. Pull this out here. I'm going to pull the bad boy in here. So I have my logo, and let's say I want to make it smaller because I just wanted to make it, you know, kind of more subtle. The logo is really not the focus here. I'm going to make my logo smaller by shrinking it down. I can use the color overlay here to, back on layer style, to change this maybe to white. And let's say I want to add something else. What's another good thing I can add? I could probably add, I know what I can add. Let's add a picture of a lion. Bam, right in your face. So I'm gonna do what's called superimposing these images. Kind of gives it a cool effect. If I just paste it, it'll create a new layer. I want to make them a little bit bigger just because I want them to kind of fill up the space there. To be honest with you, I probably would have just found a picture of a lion that was a little bigger, but that looks all right. Let me get rid of some windows here. So you can see here again in the layer style, there's the background, there's the logo, there's the lion. I'm gonna simply just drag these in the order that I want them to be in, right? And I just simply I can rearrange these layers however I want them to be. But I want the background to be the background. I want the logo to be on top, and I want the lion to be right there. One cool thing you can do is if you come up here, you can change and give your photos their own kind of effect, to where it kind of looks like they're represented there in the background. I kind of like that. You kind of get the best of both worlds. I'm going to change the opacity here, make them a little bit more faint. All right, you can do this with anything. I'm going to give my logo here some shadowing. You can increase the size by making it more, more of a blur, a larger blur. Very simple stuff. I can reposition that however I want to. I can even change the opacity on this so that it's a little bit more faint. That way I have something that I could, whether it be, like I said, a PowerPoint presentation, whether it be any kind of presentation, whether it be a video, I can put whatever I want over here. It's not too distracting. I can create really any kind of custom image that I want. You can go online, you can grab any of these abstract photos, you can bring your logo into it, you can brand it yourself, and make it work for you. That's really, I mean, there's so much that you can go over, there's so many things that you can do. All I really want to do is just kind of show you some different basic things. Best thing you can do, the best teacher you can work with is get the program, right? Make the investment, spend the money on a monthly basis or on an annual basis, and just get in there and mess around. You can't break a single thing. The other thing I would recommend doing is if you just Google Photoshop tutorials, you will find step-by-step instructions on how to do anything and everything you want, from text editing to more detailed photo editing, things that, I mean, if you really want to spend some time on it and really become good and proficient, I mean, you can do it all at no charge. It's just a time investment. Again, my philosophy is that I'd rather have these things in-house than not in-house. I know the way I want things to look better than I can explain them to somebody else. It's just a matter of me figuring out how to do it. And that's really, I mean, again, going back to the quote that we used on Tuesday, Albert Einstein, the most creative people, all they do is they simply know how to reveal or conceal their sources. Find out what's hot, find out what's trending, find out what looks good, what people think looks good. Let those companies spend millions of dollars on marketing that stuff, and then you just take it for yourself and take and implement the different things. Think about what you see and how things look. Apply that eye to it, and then think, how can I make that for myself? There's a way to do it. There's a way to do it all. It's just a matter of how dedicated you're going to be. All right, now I'm going to stop the screen share, and I'm going to see if anybody has any questions. I don't know how many people we have on here, but if you have a question, if there's something in particular that you want to see, we have some time here. We actually have a good amount of time. If there's anything that you want to see, put it in the box, in the ask a question box, and let me know, and I'd be happy to do my best to run through it in the time allotted that we have, and go from there. But so I'm going to pause here. I'm going to give it a few seconds and see if there's anybody who has anything that they want to see or add. We're going to start a 10-second countdown here in just a second. 10. 4, 3, 2, 1.5, 1. All right. Well, I hope this was beneficial. If you have any questions, if there's anything at all that you, once you get the product, if you choose to move forward and you want to see or you have questions on, here we go. Lee Zelmer, one of my favorite people. Nick, your example of the line would that be saved as an image and then added to a PowerPoint presentation? Yes. Thank you very much. So let me reshare this screen here. Let me show you the best way to do this. I want to share this screen, not the other screen. Okay. So if you've been in PowerPoint, then you're familiar that you can only use certain images as a background. Okay. So what I would do is I would simply save as. Now that we have this done. Let's go. I'm going to save this bad boy. You find out wherever you want to save it. You can save it to your desktop for all I care. But I'm going to go down here and I'm going to save it as a JPEG. It's the most universal image format that you can use. So I'm going to save it as a JPEG, and it's going to ask me the settings. I want to make it maximum. No real reason other than I just want it to look as good as it possibly can. And I have a JPEG image. From there, you can make that a background or input it as an image. But it's simply the matter of saving the file as a JPEG. And once I save it as a JPEG, I show you. I have a lot of stuff on my screen. I'm one of those people who I hoard things on my desktop and then I delete them later on. Okay. It saves. It's going to save it as a JPEG in its clear format. If my computer was a little bit faster, this would move along a little bit quicker. But once it pops up, you'll see that it's just a normal-looking JPEG. You can input that anywhere. You can print it for all. You can do anything you want. I don't recommend printing it, but you can do essentially anything that you want to do. I hope that answered your question. There we go. There's the line. So, any other questions or anything that you'd want to see or kind of know how things work? Please use the Q&A tab. If you just scroll to the left, you're going to see a little thing pop up. It's going to say Q&A. Feel free to ask a question. If there's anything particular that you want to see, I think those things are big. Just because they're so broad, you can use them in any way. You can, whether it be photo editing, creating your own backgrounds. We went over how to do memes. We went over how to do Facebook covers. My philosophy on design is I like to keep things simple. Whenever I do a logo, this more taps onto what Chris will talk about. But when I do logos or I do anything, it's got to be simple. It's got to be clean. If I can't print my logo in black and have it be just as legible and readable and recognizable, then I don't care about all the colors and all the effects. I just want simple, easy. If you look at our I-80 logo, it is 2-color, but I can make that thing black and it's all the same. Just because I think simple is good. If you look at any major brand, this goes back to seeing how other people do things. Every major brand incorporates that same philosophy. Take Nike as an example. You've seen the Nike logo in all kinds of different shapes and sizes and colors, but really it's all the same black. And I take the same approach when I'm making stuff. When I outlay, different things, I want it to be simple. I don't want it to be complicated because that's distracting. I want good branding and good design to be complementary of whatever content we're doing, whether it's a video, whether it's a magazine, whether it's a business card. My business card, basic. It's black on one side. It's got the logo, and then on the front, it's simple. I mean, it's got some design aspect to it, but it's I see things that people make in our industry and in any industry, and they just go buck wild with it. It's dumb. It really looks cheesy and cheap and stupid. And I don't mean to be super critical, but it's I don't want that for my brand. I want it to be something that's universal and applies. I can have the same thing 20 years from now, and I don't have to worry about redesigning the logo because it's simple. Keep it simple. So with that said, I don't know that we have any more questions. I'm going to stop this. If you want any further explanation or have anything further, I would encourage you to reach out to me on Facebook and be happy to help. You guys have a great day.